Hey guys, and welcome back to another YouTube video. In this video I'll be doing a quick overview of the trade targets for the week, as it is sort of free reign and sort of depends on what you need or want, as we have some people that need to get like Sinclair. A lot of people will be getting Doherty with the Elliott Yeo injury news. That sort of puts a little bit more emphasis on, I believe, like the defensive line, as a lot of people need to know if they can downgrade Yeo to Harry Himmelberg or they can go up to Doherty is basically the decision. So before we get into the video, remember to like and subscribe, turn the notification bell on so you know when I upload, and let's get into the video. So I'm just looking at my team and going off who I have and how much percentage they are owned and why. So I don't think we need to talk about Dawson. He's 58% owned. Doherty is 13, and I believe he will go up to 20 or so percent now with the news on Elliott Yeo, and given that Sicily is out for 2 more weeks, I think people will target Doherty over, as he is the best defender to have that isn't Sicily or one of these guys here. But you know, Dacos is 64% owned, so he is owned heavily. Sinclair 42, so he's owned heavily, and Stewart, if you're competitive, you've already got Stewart, because 95% of the top 1,000, I believe, have Stewart, and I believe it's somewhere around that 45-50% for the top 10,000 already have Stewart. So I think you'll see with Stewart that you just, if you don't have him already, get him, but most people already have him that are competitive. Sinclair, 42%, I think he's going to be owned. Obviously, Nick Dacos that we talked about, and I think Doherty and Himmelberg are going to be the ones that get selected as the replacement for a lot of people with Elliott Yeo. Teams not even break even. I want teams selected by, even though that does give us a who's got the lowest break even, but we don't know their actual break evens. Team selected by, so a lot of people are holding on to Sheasel. I don't actually like Sheasel. I know that sounds weird for what he's produced, but the problem is now they want to blood him into this midfield role, and we've seen with Ashcroft, who is a pure midfielder, that he will have games where he's like 120, 130, but he'll also have games like here with against Essendon where they may cop even a tag or something stupid like that, or he's scoring 90s here and 80 here. He scored 1 ton in his last 7 games, and 2 tons in his last 10. So yes, he's put up a couple of 90 scores, like 3 or 4 90 scores alongside that, and 96 and 98 and 92 and 98. He's only hit the ton twice in his last 10 games. So just be wary of that. So I don't think people will go for Jimby. I don't think I like Day with the timeline for Sicily's return enough to pick him up. As we look at the AFL break evens, we look here and we go to Day. 76 break even. I don't think he's going to climb enough to be able to get up to the likes of Sicily. I think he'll sit around 820k with Sicily if he gets 116s. So I don't think I necessarily like that enough. But we'll have to wait and see. Is there any other? We'll actually do it this, and then we'll go 900k plus. There's obviously only Sicily, I don't know, that must be dead teams that have him for 20%. Don't like Zeeble. Don't really like Luke Ryan, to be honest. Daniel, don't really. Whitfield, not really as well. Dale, I think, is a big risk. And Duggan, I think, is a big risk considering what just happened with the Swans and how I think he could be exploited, as well as the fact that he is getting marked, but he wasn't getting disposals against the Swans. I think they just ran through the whole Eagles side, and I don't think you should have many Eagles players that you're depending on at the moment for high scores. Like, I'm just depending on Long and Chesser just to see if they can get value at this point. If we look at 700k defenders, wouldn't be going for Young. Andrew McGrath wouldn't be going for either, as it doesn't look like he's been L5 of 94, but I think that's propped up by a 120 or a 117 that's propped up by. Once that score drops, that's going to go back to probably 90 or so. So I wouldn't be going for him. There isn't really any defenders, so I think it actually, just looking at this, from what I can see, with Elliot Yeo still above 10% and Brayshaw not being consistent enough, I would be going for Doherty and then leaving it at that. Now let's move over to the midfielders of choice, and this is where it's hard really to tell people this is your best option, etc., because we all have different teams here, and you might not have, for instance, Petrarca or Brayshaw or someone like that, as Petrarca does have an actual easy matchup, so you might jump on him. So it all comes down to sort of the fixturing and stuff like that. So obviously a lot of people already have like Bontempelli. He's actually only 20% owned. Bontempelli, I would probably, let's just see, because Bontempelli 95, I would probably be getting Bont, because I think he is going to go above the million and almost be ungettable if he isn't in your side. So I'd be targeting him. You've also got Merritt here, but also Bont is so expensive that I do think you will find midfielders like Laird that are probably more valuable. Bont is sort of similar to me with Butters in not having him. I wish I could grab Butters, but I don't think I can feasibly get him this week. It will be next week, hopefully, that I can get him. I can probably get Butters next week. I only have 90k spare, so it's going to be pretty tough to get Butters unless Johnson goes pretty ridiculous, and I can get Butters because of that. But then again, if Johnson is going ridiculous and there's only about a 10 point gap between him and Butters, then I might as well take the massive cash gen that I can get from that and grab Butters in a couple of weeks' time when Johnson is 600k and I have 450k from Windhager or something like that, as well as say 60 or 50k remaining in cap space to be able to make those maneuvers. As Wardlaw and Wilmot will probably go next week, in my belief, for Steele, or we could also go for Mills. Mills, I'm probably not going to go for at the moment. I think Mills could be a straight swap for Keys once he gets some form, because that might just be a straight swap with cash almost. Or I could look at moving Himmelberg on, etc. in a couple of weeks, but that's sort of just food for thought at the moment. But all these five guys, obviously Oliver is injured. Don't really like Parrish. Kelly, I think, is in a never again just because he cannot stay fit. Sarong, I think he's pretty good because he's playing through a little bit of a niggle and still going over 100, 107, L3, 110 last 5. So I think Butters, Laird, and then Bont or Merritt are probably the two guys that I'd be going for. You've got Petrarca here also, who I think could be a value option over like Bontempelli, as he does have a easier matchup this week with no Oliver, and has gone over 103 for the last 4 weeks, and seems to have that midfield role. And then he has St Kilda, where who played St Kilda last week? They had Brisbane, and if we go to Brisbane, all players last round, you had Neil, Berry, you had some pretty good scoring. So I think I do think that he can score well, especially, and then I just want to switch over to the St Kilda, because I'm pretty sure St Kilda also had two sort of midfielders score well. So I do think Petrarca should be probably your number one target outside of fixing that Elliot Yeo if you do have a mistake. Well, I wouldn't call it a mistake necessarily. I call it the risk not 100% paying off if you got him in last week. But if you got him in for the whole buys and you survived the whole buys with you made like 150k or something ridiculous, or I don't know exactly what he made, but he did score pretty much average 95 or something across the buys, which is good enough. I wouldn't be looking at Warner per se, as he has dropped a 60 and 72 and a 97 recently, and I do think that 128 was because of the Eagles. And same can be said about Rowbottom. Shuey, he's an injury risk. Day. Fiorini wouldn't go for. Martin. Laird, I think, is the one that... Laird, Petrarca, I think are my undervalued premiums, I would say, as they can go 115, 120 for the rest of the year, but they're priced at around that 105 to 110 range, and that's just really good value at this point in the season, whereas Bont is priced at, I think, around 114, but has a break even of, I think it was 75 or something, so he will go over the 1 million, I'm pretty sure, and I think he will comfortably go over it. But I think your better options are Petrarca and Rory Laird, seeing seeing who they're playing, I guess. And that actually begs the question, and I think I was pondering it in my last video, the one that went up before this, what will happen if, say, Wilmot does score well, and I think you will actually see me go, and I will go not get Doherty this week and go get Laird, as Laird has the North Melbourne matchup and Doherty does have a matchup against Hawthorn, which is an easier matchup per se, but I do believe Hawthorn, if we go to DFS Australia, I think North Melbourne is the easier matchup per position that they're in. If we go here, Hawthorn defenders, wing defense +10, North Melbourne inside mids +1. So actually it is actually leaning towards Doherty. So I don't know what I'll do, but I'll probably talk to people about that when it happens, I guess. But we'll wait and see for that. And then I do think Mitchell is a good option actually at this point, but I'm not going to pick him up personally because I think there's more certain options like 15, 20k more expensive that you can get. I do like that Mitchell has Gold Coast this week. I do think that's a scoreable team, but then he does have this tough run, but I think you could gamble him in the last couple of weeks of the year if you want to at that like M8 role if you can get him there. You got Kelly, McGrath, Dacos, Hobbs, none of these guys. Steele is one guy that I'd be waiting on. If you really wanted to get Steele, you could, but I do think it is a risk with Steele, as he is an 80 L5 guy, I'm guessing. 90 L5, 84 L3. I think I'm willing to wait a week with Steele, as I do think you can get him in 2 weeks' time and have this fresh run for at least 3 weeks here. Then Carlton is even an easy game. Richmond's an easy game. So you almost have a 5-game run here where you can get him in and you have some pretty good run. And then I'm just going to flick over to the forwards, as this is basically going to be pretty easy. L3, so you got Daniel, Martin, Butters, McRae, basically the only options. Cogs is an option basically, but I think there are better options in Butters and the other guys here. So I think all 5 of these guys are obviously in most teams. What's Cameron at? The 11%. I think these are the best 5, and Butters is that 5th, and Darcy Cameron should be your 6th if you want a complete team. But yeah, I do think that getting Butters is a must for people that don't have him, or as a forward option, that would be my number 1 target. I think Cogs is the second best. Then I'd probably go Daniel, then Martin. McRae, then Daniel, then Martin, as I do think McRae offers a lot more than Daniel, and I do think he has this ability to go 120 plus, whereas Daniel here, he does do the same thing, sort of, but I just don't know if his role is a little bit more wary to change, going between on ball or back into the defensive line. So that's basically the video, I believe. I just want to check as I remember checking this earlier, as I'm not actually going for, I don't believe I'll be going for a rookie this week, but the best rookie to grab, I believe, is actually Hewitt. Even though it doesn't look like it, it's because Hewitt's got a 47 last week and sort of resurrected his break even. Has the ability to score heavily very quickly with a 55. But scored well against the Swans, has St Kilda, then Brisbane, and has a pretty open run. So if you do need a rookie, I'd go for him, but I wouldn't actually be going for a rookie. I'd be going for Himmelberg. In my position, I'm not going to go for a rookie. and I think some others won't be going for a rookie, as they'll be upgrading to mid prices up to a premium and another mid pricer that could go berserk. Because if you look at Himmelberg, he does have the makings of a guy that looks like he can go crazy. No ton scores, but plays Melbourne, and he should get a lot of kickouts and a lot of marks from Melbourne, as it seems like they're giving up. Who did Melbourne play? Melbourne played Geelong. If we look at Geelong, they gave up 120 to to Duncan, and they gave up defenders last round. They gave up 120 to Duncan, 100 to Stewart. Even Atkins scored well, so they have. I think he will score well, so I think he could be on for a huge effort. Is it at Geelong? I don't know if it is at Geelong. Could be at Geelong. It's at. Oh, sorry, no. It's against Melbourne at TIO. Is that one of the regional grounds? So that could be iffy, but they might use Himmelberg just to boot it up the line a lot more. So that could actually help him if it is a smaller ground. But if it is a bigger ground, he could be used as they just chip it around a little bit more. So that's basically the video there. There aren't many rookies. I'm probably going to stop the cash cow for at least the next couple of weeks, as there doesn't look to be any other rookies coming through, and I can easily explain them in like a minute or two on the trade targets video. So that's the trade targets video, and I'll see you guys in my predictions and my team preview for round 16 we're going into now. Thanks guys, goodbye.